Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and another papercraft lantern project, which is why my screen's looking a little bit darker than normal. It's so you can see what happens when I get my remote and turn that on. Look how beautiful this is. It's a lovely flying owl. You can use some ribbon or twine to hang it up. And if I just turn my lights out a bit, you can see just how stunning that looks with all of the lights glowing inside. This is a free SVG file which is available on my website, so let's find out where to go to get it, and then I'll show you how to put together this stunning snowy owl papercraft lantern. Let's get started. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, then press Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder and then the file to select is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in and it will look something like this. Don't worry that it looks a little bit blurry on the screen. That's a little bug or quirk going on in Design Space at the moment, but by the time you've uploaded the file, it will be perfect quality. Press Continue and then Upload, and then it will put it straight onto your project for you. It should load in at 11.5 by 21.5 inches. You might find that it's slightly off. For example, this is showing 0.001 difference in that width and height, but that is not going to be enough to make a difference. As long as it is exactly or very, very near to 11.5 by 21.5, that is the correct size to make a snowy owl lantern that will easily fit a battery-powered tea light inside. We've got all the pieces down here as you scroll. The lovely thing about this project is you do not need to change anything in Cricut Design Space. It is ready to cut. The only thing I want to make you aware of are these blue pieces at the bottom. These are going to be stuck inside the edges of the lanterns so that it will help diffuse the light to create a prettier, kind of more ethereal, surreal look to the light glowing inside. So you'll want to cut them from something translucent, for example vellum or tracing paper, even maybe some types of greaseproof paper or butcher paper that perhaps you might use for your sublimation. Just something that is a little bit kind of semi-see-through so that it will show the light through. This also has the benefit of helping to disguise the candle inside so it looks like it's just naturally glowing, all magic by itself. However, if you don't have anything semi-transparent, then you can still make this either by cutting these parts from something completely transparent, such as acetate, or even the protective layer off of an old Cricut mat. Or for this owl, you could leave them off and it will still work just fine because the gaps in here are quite small. So even if there's nothing behind them, it will still work and be sturdy enough. But if possible, it really does look better if you've got something translucent behind them. And adding these shapes to the back does give them a little bit more strength. So we can just go straight ahead and press Make. This project does require 12 by 12 inch cardstock because the wings of the owl are quite large. So when I go in here, normally I would change my paper size to A4, but I can't do that this time because it is too big for that. You can still rearrange things on the mat if you want to use up less space, so you can have a little play with your layers. Just make sure that nothing overlaps, otherwise it won't cut out properly. When you're happy with how everything is looking, press Continue to connect to your Cricut and then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut from cardstock. I've got all the pieces of my owl lantern cut out and I've roughly laid everything in the correct order. So I've got all my wings up here and the face here and then all the other pieces down the bottom. Before we start putting it together, I thought I would just show you some of the different types of light that you can put inside the owl. It's been created specifically to fit battery-powered tea lights, such as this one. So these ones, when they turn on, it's got a nice sort of flickering effect. It'll be a bit hard to see because my camera lights are on. And also the battery is very much running out in this one, so it keeps turning off, which it's done now. Come on. No. Yep, there we go. No, it's done. Anyway, well, if the battery was working, it would show up nicely in there. You can also use submersible lights, which look like this. These are really nice because they can go in all different colours. So I'll turn it tight to switch it on. And then it comes with a remote. I'll turn it on. Oh, I'm not getting on very well with these. There we go. So this one's showing up red at the moment, but you can use the remote to change it all different colours, and you can even make it go multicoloured so it'll go through the different lights. And these work really well because they are quite bright, so they will light up the owl really well. You can also use battery-powered fairy lights as long as the battery pack is quite small. For example, ones like this. You will need to unravel the lights from around the battery pack. Quite often they come with a warning that says you shouldn't use them when they're all wrapped up tightly like this, so you'd need to open them up a bit to put them inside the owl. Another type of battery-powered fairy light that has quite a small battery base are these ones. They're designed to go in wine bottles, and this would be the cork. So again, these ones would fit inside the owl too, but you would need to unravel it. You might find if using a string of fairy lights that some of them try poking out the holes where all the sides of the owl meet together. So you would be better off with either the tea light or these submersible lights. Let's start making the owl lantern by gluing our translucent pieces onto the sides. I've already done 5 of them. So these are the bits that make up the sides of the lantern. Ooh, I've got his beak there. Where did that come from? So this one, I've already got the paper in there. You can see it glued on the back. It would help if I pulled my light back in now. There we go. And I've got one left to do. So this is the little piece of translucent paper. I've used tracing paper, and it's got a tiny little triangle cut out in one of the sides. It's super hard to show you because it's very, very small, but there's the tiniest triangle. There you go, cut out, and that shows that that is the bottom, and the one without the triangle is the top. And then when you've got your side pieces, the one with the oval is the top, and the one with the straight edge is the bottom. So I'll take my glue and go around the edge, not right up to the very, very edge, because the inner pieces don't go all the way to the edge, to give you a bit of wiggle room for if you don't quite line it up right. And then stick this over the top, push it down carefully because I don't want the glue to smush into the middle bits, and then repeat that for all 6 pieces, but I've already done them, so I'm just going to leave those to dry. Next, we'll glue together the face of the owl. There are a lot of pieces in here, but they all just get glued one on top of the other. Start at the bottom, which is this solid grey piece. And then got this one on top, which has the holes to show some of those grey bits through. And there's that one. And then the next one on top is this one, which is going to make up a nice outline along the top of the head, give it some detail. Like that. Now we'll start building up the eyes, starting with this yellow piece. Line that up along the bottom. You can see it fits with the lines of where we've already got things. And then be careful with this next one because there are 2 very similar pieces. You've got these 2 white pieces, and one of them has got circles in the eyes. That's the one we want next. And then the other one has got more open eyes. It looks more like a mask. That's the one we'll use a bit later. So just a reminder, that's the one we want now. And then next is the black piece. Now we want the white piece that looks like a mask. Then the outline grey bit, this is quite tricky to glue on as it's narrow, so be careful with it. If you don't want to add this bit, you can leave it off. It will still look lovely. And finally, the beak on the top. The beak doesn't come quite the way to the top of that grey. You've got a little point that you can still see. So the beak should line up with the bottom of the beak shape along there. And there is our owl's head. Next, we'll move on to making his wings. Again, there's lots of pieces here. And it's up to you if you make it straight onto the lantern or if you make them up separate and then add them to the full body piece at the end. That's how I'm going to do it because I think it's a little bit easier to build the lantern up before you add all the weight with these pieces. For these ones, we'll be using a combination of glue and foam squares to give it a little bit of dimension. So our very bottom layer is this grey one here, and then the detail will go on top. This one will be glued. Make sure you add some glue around the hook on the top to make sure that all these bits get stuck really well together so that when we've got the thread going through it, it will hold everything in place. This goes right on top. So you'll just see the little kind of wavy lines of the grey through the gaps. Line up those edges as neatly as you can. And there's that one. Then we'll move on to the next pieces of the wings. So that is this solid white piece here, which goes on there. But for this one, we'll use foam squares to give it some depth. I'm using foam squares from Dot and Dab, but any will do. And I'm actually going to use ones that are a little bit bigger than normal because there's a lot of space here, so I can get away with bigger foam squares. I'll put some all the way around the edge and also a few bits in any large open spaces to make sure we've got a really good stick. I've cut some of my foam squares a little smaller so that I can put them up right up against the edges of the wings up here, just to make sure they'll be stuck nicely. And then peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. This piece is going to cover up all of this solid here. And again, make sure you line up the hole at the top nicely. I'm going to gently drop it down so that if I wasn't quite happy with how that was positioned, I could move it because it hasn't stuck down yet. But that's looking good, so I will push down to stick. Next, we've got these two detail pieces, which will be glued on. They'll go one either side along the bottom parts of the feathers that we can still see. The top ones will get covered up by the next layers. Then on top of there is one more glue layer, which is going to make the details around the edges. On to the next level of the wings now. There's so much in this owl bit. It's really worth it because it looks so realistic when it's all done. Now these ones will all be glued on, and you might be wondering what's the point of adding on an extra layer that's only glued, but because it's still 3 different layers, we've got white, grey and the light grey on top, you do still see the depth, and it just adds that extra special little touch to the insides of the wings. Ooh, my glue has dried up. I'm not very good at remembering to put the needle back in the nib when I'm filming. there. Then we've got these pieces which will go on that second little wing in. So there and there, like that. Oop, I'm throwing it all over the place. Then on top of there is this grey piece with the details. Right, 2 more layers of the wings to go. Then we'll be done with them. So we've got this one next, starting with the solid white, which will be foam squared on. I'll have to cut these a little smaller, or just use some smaller ones actually that I've got here to fit in these gaps. Next, glue the outline layer on top. Last one now, and the solid white again will be foam squared on. And you've probably guessed it, the outline layer glued on top. And then lastly for this, you can either glue or use foam squares to add the head of the owl on top. As it's got lots of depth in it already, I think I might glue it. I'm not sure. No, I'm going to give it even more. Let's have some foam squares. This is looking amazing. See all the depth and dimension in there. It just needs a body. Here's the main body piece of the owl, and there are 2 bits for the tail to be glued on top. So I'll do that first before we put the lantern in, starting with the darker grey. This is going to line right up against the bottom of that tail. And then the detail pale grey to go on top. This one's going to be a little tricky to glue. Next, it's time to add the layers into the lantern, and we'll start with this egg-shaped piece that's got the cutout in 2 places along here and 2 places along the bottom here. This will slide in to the 2 slits on the main owl piece. So I'll go up on that one and then carefully bring it in. Try not to add any bends or folds into the card, and then slot it into the bottom too. And I'll hold those flat against each other and bring in the other egg piece and do the same thing. So this time it's going over both of those, and then carefully pull it through and slot it over the bottom. And now it will open up so that you've got 6 sides to your almost egg shape of a lantern. To give it some stability, we've got 2 circles. The smaller one goes at the top, the larger one at the bottom. And I'll do the larger one first, but it doesn't actually matter. So this is going to go inside this little egg lantern shape, and then the ridges on the edges of the circle will go into the little tiny ridges at the bottom of each of these egg pieces. And this is going to be really hard to show you on camera because not only is it super small, but I've got white on a white table, so it's not the easiest thing to show you, but I will try. So I've put that in, and now I just need to line up all of the little slits. And this is one reason why I didn't want to put all the owl wing pieces on first, otherwise it would be super top heavy. It just makes it a bit harder to manoeuvre everything around. Being very careful, you don't want to rip anything. You might find when you put one in, the next one comes out and it all seems a little bit difficult until the end when they've all gone in together. Okay, that's looking good. I know they're all in now because my circle is nice and flat and it's holding everything sturdy. So now I'll do the same thing with the smaller circle, which is going to go into the slits at the top of the owl. I'm going to pause the video for this one because you've already seen me do it once. You don't need to see me do it again. Now that both of those circles are in, the lantern's nice and sturdy on the front and the back. So at this point, we can glue the rest of the owl to it. I put lots of glue on here because it is heavy. You don't want it falling off. Now we'll carefully get this in place. Line it up. Push down to get all of that glue stuck. Oh, it looks amazing. I'm so happy with this project. Okay, all that we've got left to do now is to slot in the sides of the lantern. So the one with the oval top goes at the top and the one with the straight edge goes at the bottom. And these just go into the little holes in the top and bottom of the lantern. So we'll go up through the top one and then a gentle bend inwards and it goes in that bottom hole. So we've ended up with that. And then it's the same for all of them. Just remember that you will need to add your light in before you put the last one in, but they do come out really easily, so you can still open it up again by taking one out, put your lights in and out, change the lights, switch them on and off. All of that. So cute. And then 3 on the back as well. And then my light, let's just check I've got that switched on. Nope, that's the one I've turned on. Put that in. And then my final side. You would also need to add some ribbon or twine or thread through the hole to hang it up. That's all nicely sealed. So now that light is in there. Let's turn that away. Oh, it's so nice. I'm going to turn my other light away as well. Hang on. There. Oh, it's so pretty. This might just be my absolute favourite project I've made in a long, long time. It's so nice and it'll look gorgeous when it is hung up. You can see all those lights coming through and it's really, really beautiful. I hope you've enjoyed making this snowy owl papercraft project with me. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut papercrafts, including some other lanterns and a dog and a cat design, also available for free. I'm currently working on lots more lantern designs featuring dog breeds, cat breeds, and I'll be doing some other animals such as a Highland cow and additional flying bird designs. I'm thinking a cardinal and a bald eagle would look lovely, but if there's any other animals that you think would look lovely in a lantern format and that you would like to make, drop me a comment on this video and I'll see what I can do. Thanks again for watching along with me.